What's up everybody? Welcome to Mike Zuniga Films. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about 3 things that will help you make a better video. ISO, f-stop, and shutter speed. Let's get right into it. So in this video, I'm going to be making it as simple as possible in terms of what helped me understand how to adjust these 3 components in a camera. So first of all, it's important to think of each of these 3 things as separate. Not so much in how they affect each other first, but more importantly, understanding that each of these has a specific job. And once you know what specific job each of these have, then you'll be able to create a better video. So ISO. ISO, its main job is that it determines how dark or how bright your image is going to be. So let's say you decrease your image down to its lowest, which could be 100 ISO, the image will be dark. If you increase it to, let's say, 2000, the image is going to be brighter. So here's a couple things to consider when adjusting your ISO. If you are indoors, let's say in a darker room, and you increase your ISO to, let's say, 1600 or 2000, you might experience some grain in the image. What I mean by that is that the image will look a little fuzzy. Now, if you increase your ISO, let's say you're outdoors this time and the setting is a little bit brighter, just keep in mind that if you increase it to a really high ISO, your image can be overexposed, meaning the whites can be super bright that doesn't even look natural to your eye. Now let's move to f-stop, okay? So with f-stop is that number you see with a decimal in it. So it can be a 2.8, 4.0. The best way for me to describe it is through an example. Let's say you are filming someone right in front of you, directly in front of you. Let's say I'm filming you and I'm in focus, you're in focus. If I have a low f-stop, let's say like a 2.8, for example, then the background will be blurry. And if I increase my f-stop, let's say to like a 5.0 or higher, right? And I'm still focused on you, you'll still stay in focus, but as I increase the f-stop, the background will be less blurry. So here's some things to consider with that. A low f-stop means the lens is wide open, letting in more light, okay? Think of it as a tube. Now, if I increase the f-stop, right? That means the lens, the tube, it constricts. So it lets in less light. Shutter speed basically determines how much motion blur your video will have, okay? So that number for shutter speed, you can see in your camera that it's like, let's say 50, 60, 40. Basically, it's a fraction. You don't see it on your camera, but it's a fraction. What that means is if you see a 50 on your camera, it means 1/50th of a second, okay? And that's how fast it's capturing the image. Because in a video, right, it's just a bunch of images that are put together to make a motion picture. The standard, let's say for a DSLR, if you just want to capture natural movement, is 50. I keep it at 50. Don't go below that. If you go below it, you'll notice that when you are filming, your image will be really blurry. It doesn't look natural. If you increase it, right, to let's say like 200 or something, and you just want to capture natural movement, no slow motion, you'll see that it looks a little bit too unrealistic. It looks really, it looks too crisp, too fluid of a movement. There's really not that much blurriness. Now, things to consider with this. If you increase the shutter speed, right, the image will become a little bit darker. If you decrease the shutter speed, the image will become a little bit brighter. So those are just a couple things to consider with shutter speed. I'm just going to share with you just my initial setups when I'm filming indoors and outdoors. This is what I usually start with, and then from there I usually adjust them. Okay, so indoors, I have my ISO at 400. I have my f-stop at its lowest. If I have a lens that's 2.8, I have it at 2.8, I start there. And then my shutter speed, I have it at 50. Remember, we are not filming any slow motion right now, so I have it at 50. Okay, outdoors, I have my ISO set to its lowest, usually 100, 200, and then I have my f-stop set to 4.0, and then I have my shutter speed set to 50. Now, slow motion, because I know a lot of you like to film slow motion. If you want to film natural movement, the standard is 24 frames per second, and your shutter speed is 50, or 1/50th of a second, okay? Now, if you want to film slow motion, you have to adjust your frame rate from 24 to 60 frames per second, okay? And with that, your shutter speed, the higher your shutter speed is, the more fluid your slow motion clips will be. So if you notice in your camera, if you film at 60 frames per second, most cameras will not let you go below 60 for the shutter speed, or 1/60th of a second. While you can keep it at 60, your slow motion will still look a little bit blurry. It won't look as fluid of a slow motion, right? Because you want to get every single detail of the movement. So a good rule of thumb, I usually keep it at 100 or a little bit higher for the shutter speed. So one thing to always keep in mind is that the one thing that will really help your video are lights, extra lights. Okay, so right now I'm filming with lights on both sides of me because this room isn't the best in terms of lighting. When you're filming indoors, if you have a setting that you are able to set up lights, let's say with interviews, lights are very important. And if you're filming outdoors, use the natural light that's outdoors. However, one thing that has really helped me that I always use when I'm filming outdoors are ND filters. This is a variable ND filter. It basically allows me to keep the settings that I want without having to adjust them on my camera in terms of the ISO, f-stop, and shutter speed. If you adjust, let's say your f-stop or a shutter speed, an ISO, there are big jumps. Like ISO, let's say you go from 100, 200, right? Your f-stop, 2.8 to 3.2, then a 4.0, shutter speed, 50, 60, 80, 100. Now those are big jumps, and you would obviously like to keep those in those settings without having to adjust them and see those big jumps. So having a variable ND filter allows you to adjust the brightness of your image incrementally. Now, this is very good for run and gun filmmakers that are on the go, that don't really have time to, or just want something to adjust quickly. Let's say you're filming outdoors, right? And you're filming an interview and you want to keep that natural movement, so you keep your shutter speed at 50, 1/50th of a second, and then you want to keep your f-stop at, let's say, a 2.8. Then having this on your camera, you just twist it on in front of your lens. It comes in different sizes depending on the size of your lens, and you're able to adjust it, right? Let's say you want to keep the blurriness on the back of your subject and you want that super blurry. It allows you to keep that 2.8 f-stop. If you didn't have this on there, then the image will be super bright. So having this on there allows you to keep that 2.8 f-stop, allowing you to have that blurriness in the back of your subject just by twisting it. There you go. Those are a couple of my tips. Let me know if you have any questions or what you want to see next. You want to see more filming tutorials, or you want to see more editing tutorials? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks again for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.